KJ and Dondero, WEEI, 617-779-7937. The text line, 37937. Are you putting this all on Tatum's shoulders? Because I can't. I just can't, right? Because if you win a game and you score 12 points, that says that other people are involved. When you start scoring more points and you're losing games, that means other people aren't involved. Here's Grant Williams talking about, look, we made excuses at times.
The dynamic shift of like how they changed the series starting in that game where they won 3 in a row. You know, they just upped their physicality and we responded somewhat, but then we scapegoated sometimes. And that's a little bit of the maturity side of things. Us being more mentally strong is the number one thing for this team moving forward, and being more prepared to focus in on every single little detail that needs to be done.
Yeah, the little detail that needs to be done is like the bench players, the role players have to show up, and they disappeared. And that's why I said, look, how can you put it all on Tatum's shoulders? Now, granted, if he's the superstar and he's the one that's the All-NBA and he's got the Ruffles potato chips in the stores and he's doing the commercials, then yeah, he's the easy target. But if you look at numbers, you wouldn't think that his turnovers were down in this series compared to the previous series. You wouldn't have thought that, would you?
No, were they down?
Yeah, they were worse in the Miami series. They were worse in the series with the Bucks. But yet and I get it because it's the finals. But at the same time, I think the piling on of Jason Tatum is just too easy of a narrative, as much as it is to say, hey, look, you've got a role bench player issue. When you have guys coming off the bench for 3 points, 1 point, 5 minutes, of nothing. There's nothing Tatum or Brown can do.
Again, though, this is the life of being the best player on a potential championship-winning NBA basketball team. You have to shoulder that burden, okay? When those guys are going to disappear at times. Now, some of them ended up disappearing for the rest of the playoffs. Grant Williams, by the time the Miami series started, he evaporated. He was gone.
He's been gone since game 6,
And then it was
7,
Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard hit 2 threes in game 1, but really for the second half of the Miami series and then for basically the entire NBA Finals outside of those 2 shots in Game 1, he was gone. And then obviously by the end of the Finals, Derek White was a pumpkin. So that was a part of this. But Tatum, it starts with Tatum. And I get it, he's 24. He'll get there. He has time. They were ahead of schedule. But it was Tatum, his inability to help the Celtics overcome some of those other deficiencies or some of the way, the way that Golden State took it to them at times, when the superstar needs to rise up and be the reason that you are a team that can, the best player can will you to a victory. He wasn't able to do it. He just wasn't, and that's the reality.
KJ and Dondero on WEEI. Mark is live from the U.S. Open. Look, here's what's interesting. The highest point total Jason Tatum had in the series against Golden State was 28 in Game 2, which was a loss, but his plus-minus was minus 36. So, again, he's putting up close to 30 points. You're asking, okay, what else is he supposed to do if you've got a minus 36? So it's like, hey, I've got 28 points while I'm getting a negative response from everybody else on the court, but yet I scored 12 points in Game 1, and I've got a plus 16 plus-minus. So, again, I always said this series was not about crowning Jason Tatum as the next superstar. Welcome to the All-NBA first-team club. Let's celebrate. We now have a star in Boston. It was about winning 18. And I think you only win that series if the team steps up, where your role players step up. Jaylen Brown performed out of his face. I mean, I even hear some people say, well, this is now Jaylen Brown's team. No, Jaylen Brown just did what another teammate is supposed to do. And I think there's evidence that Tatum had done what he was supposed to do. It's just that the rest of the team did not.
13 points in an elimination game at home. I mean,
I think those are shoulders shrugged. I think he was completely done, right? Because one can make the argument.
What do you mean completely done? He quit?
Well, no, I don't want to. I'm not going to say he quit, but I'm just saying that would be a game you put the Kobe armband on, right? You think he's going to put the Kobe armband on? He's got to put it on for the next 2 games. These are the 2, because the whole premise was that when he wore it in Game 7 against Miami, it was the most important game he played in. Well, now these next 2 would be the most important. So, maybe we'll find out there's something with the shoulder that was a little more. I don't want to buy reasons for him, but I think, sometimes, and when you're young, sometimes if you feel like you just can't get it done and nobody else is giving you help, it was a disappearing act in that final game. It was. The
story of the series to me, and what I got wrong, the biggest thing I got wrong, I completely and utterly underestimated the defense of the Golden State Warriors. I did not think they were going to pose the problems, specifically Wiggins, Green, and Thompson. Their length it was nightmarish for the duo of Brown and Tatum. Wiggins especially. Wiggins erased Tatum. Wiggins outplayed Tatum offensively and defensively. I mean, you can't have that if you're the Celtics. I did not envision the issues that Tatum and Brown had with that trio of the Warriors, and I didn't see it happening and playing out the way it did. So give Wiggins credit. He was awesome in the series, and he totally got in the head of Jason Tatum and shut him down.
Yeah, if you told me going into the series that the Golden State Warriors would sometimes out-rebound the Celtics in any of these games, especially on the offensive glass, I would say, what's going on? I would think that nobody's down there. And so I think the Celtics learned that championship pedigree means you can't get out-hustled in areas that you should dominate. There was no reason that the lack of size of Golden State should have outwilled the size advantage that the Celtics had. And that's the thing that jumped out at me the most. Some stuff you don't see on a stat sheet, but it just seemed like Golden State wanted it more in areas where they were deemed deficient compared to the Celtics. Here's M.A. Udoka with his message for Jason Tatum moving forward.
Yeah, learn and understand who he is in this league. You know, you're all-star, all-NBA first-team guy for a reason, and this is only a start of how you're going to be guarded and the attention you're going to draw. And so one thing that he's always done throughout the season was seen multiple different coverages and figured it out. And he did that throughout the first few series. And this one was a rough one. Very consistent team that did some things to limit him and make others pay. And so from him, it's just continue to grow and understand that you're going to see this rest of your career. This is just a start. But the growth that he showed as a playmaker this year and in certain areas, I think this is the next step for him, figuring that out and, getting to where some of the veterans are that have seen everything and took their lumps early in their careers. And like I said, very motivated guy that works extremely hard and high IQ, intelligent guy that will learn from this and figure it out. And I think it will propel him to go forward, definitely motivate him.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I do agree. But it doesn't explain to me what happened, because what I saw against Milwaukee, was a guy that had all the confidence in the world, was doing the things that a superstar needed to do. Specifically, the Al Horford game 4 on the road, Horford was carrying the team, but I tweeted during the game, I knew you couldn't let Al Horford try to take you home. What happened in the fourth quarter, Tatum hadn't been playing great, but in the fourth quarter, he showed up and he did what a superstar is supposed to do. And then in game 6, obviously, 46 points. He's shooting the ball in Giannis's eye. He's shooting threes. He's stepping into shots. He's not driving to nowhere and dishing it. I don't know where that came from, and I don't know what happened, because against Milwaukee, we saw it. Now, the shoulder injury, but when he shot the ball, he was still productive after the shoulder stinger, whatever it was. I don't know what happened to the conviction. How many times against the Warriors did I see him get the pass? I'm waiting for him to rise up and shoot with conviction, and nope, hesitation, then drive, then dish, then Marcus Smart ends up taking a shot, or where did the conviction go? Why? Where did this driving and dishing come from? The guy we saw against Milwaukee was the guy. That was the player. Had he played against the Warriors, I don't know what would have happened.
So maybe this goes back to some of the narrative that had been going on during the season that, hey, Jalen and Jason need to learn how to pass. Now, you would say, hey, you're at the NBA Finals. Don't pass. Shoot. But maybe that's part of it, right? Because if he takes a bunch of shots and misses, and he missed his fair share of shots, then does the narrative suddenly become, see, Jason Tatum is suddenly getting hoggish again. He wants to take it all on his shoulders and so forth. And that may play a part. And I think the other part is when you see how far the Celtics came through in terms of the names they went through Kevin Durant and Kyrie. Then they went through Giannis, right? And then they beat the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. And then when you get to the finals, it's almost like the team who no one really expected to be there. You might have thought maybe Phoenix would be there, maybe Memphis. I mean, granted, Golden State was, the 2 seed? So it's almost kind of like maybe there was a feeling of a letdown, right? Like, we've beaten all these big-time guys, and we've gone up against an aging Steph, an aging Draymond Green, a recovering Clay, and a question mark Andrew Wiggins going into the season, and you may feel like, we got this. And you win game 1 on the road, then you might feel like, we really got this.
Yeah.
I can't necessarily get into squarely into their head. But sometimes these are the things you may think when you are younger, right? It's like you ever hear the saying, never corner an old dog because they may have one good bite left in them? You ever heard that term before?
Whatever, yeah.
Well, you just did, right?
Yeah.
That was Golden State, right? Golden State, you would think that, hey, when the lines came out, people knew that money was going to come from a lot of Boston fans on the plus side. Then right after game one, those odds flipped where suddenly the Celtics were favored to win the series after one game. And yet here they didn't even make it to 7 games, where I think a lot of us thought it would get to 7 games.
Yeah, and when we get back into the next segment, I'll go into their minds and tell you, I think, a part at least of what happened and what derailed the Celtics.
All right, KJ and Dondero, 617-779-7937. The text line 37937. We talk more Celtics, the future of Jason Tatum. What does the team look like? Who do you trade? Do you keep people? But right now it's time to trend with Nick.